Hey everyone, this is Rich, Plant-Based Coach Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Suzanne Fox, and we're
Hi.
here. We're here with Maxime Sigouin. I hope I said your last name right.
It was good.
Um, yeah, yeah. He's part of Fit Vegan. He's the founder, and he has transformed a lot of people's lives. And I was really impressed when I looked at some of his work. And I'd like to learn more about Fit Vegan in a minute. But first, Maxim, if you could tell us a little bit about your background, what led you to become vegan?
Yeah, for sure. I'll try to condense the story. So I grew up on a farm, very much that like redneck lifestyle with like chickens, geeses. We killed our chicken for meat every year. We had horses, cows, picked up the eggs. Very much we're like traditional farmers. And then got into bodybuilding and then powerlifting. So I used to weigh 240 pounds at one point. And then I got recruited to do high fashion modeling through just a friend we had in common. His agent saw me and was like, I see something under those big chubby cheeks. I think there's a jawline in there. And so she's like, if you lose some weight, we'll do a photo shoot, see if we can get you some jobs. And I think I was working at like Subway at the time. So I didn't have too
I
much
actually
going on.
used to work there too, many years
Nice.
ago.
Yeah. So yeah, worked at Subway, was working out. I was like how old was I? I was probably like 19 years old at the time. And decided to, you know what, let me just try to do a photo shoot. And she was like, you need to lose like a bunch of weight because 240 pounds, my shirt size was an extra large, and I'm 6'4". So for my category of modeling, I was high fashion and not commercial. So high fashion is like what you see people walk on the runway. And she's like, you have to fit into like a medium shirt, like a small medium. I was like, I'm an extra large. That's a lot of size to lose. And I worked really hard to put on that muscle because I grew up skinny fat. So I was like 160 pounds, 6'4". I went up to 240. And so I was like, you know what? I've done bodybuilding, I've done powerlifting, I've competed. Let me just try something new. And so I ended up going on Google and I was like, hey, what diet's going to get me the skinniest as fast as possible? Right. Because I want to be able to do my photo shoot. And a vegan showed up. It said vegans are skinny and weak. I was like, great. I don't care if I'm weak. I just need to get skinny. And so that was my beginning into veganism, right? Disclaimer, you can be strong and be vegan. I know that now, but
Exactly.
back then I didn't know, I didn't care. I just needed to get skinny. So literally the next day, like my diet was the same for several years. I would eat a dozen eggs for breakfast, 10 egg whites, two full eggs, a cup of oats, half a cup of blueberries and peanut butter. And then every 2 hours after that, for an additional 5 meal, I would eat 2 to 3 chicken breasts with a scoop of rice,
Wow.
some broccoli, and some hot sauce. So I would eat about 15 chicken breasts a day and about 12 eggs a day for several
Holy
years. And
cow.
then as soon as I discovered that what vegan was, I didn't really know what to eat. I just knew I had to cut out all animal products. So literally the next day I transitioned from all that meat to being vegan. And I think my first breakfast was like a
Wow.
bowl of dates, frozen blueberries, and bananas because that's all I had in my house.
Well, one
And
question, if you don't mind,
yeah,
on that note, how did you feel that first transition day? Did you feel better, or did you notice anything?
I didn't feel anything the first day, but kind of 5 to 7 days into it, few things happened. My digestion was harsh. Like I had a hard time in my gut because I went from basically barely eating fiber to I did my math the other day to just trying to figure out how much I was eating. And I basically went from like 10 grams of fiber a day to like 70 within one day.
Right.
And so my gut was having a really hard time. So it took me a while to get adjusted. But after my gut got adjusted, I felt phenomenal because I always had gut issues from drinking so many whey protein shakes, drinking milk, and eating a ton of dairy from the bodybuilder diet. But the main benefit was my nose cleared up, which was interesting because I didn't think my nose was clogged. I just, that's just how I felt every day. I just like, oh, that's how I breathe. That's how my nose feels. And about 5 days into it, cutting out the dairy, my nose cleared up. So I had less tension in my nose, less tension in my forehead, and that I had a fogginess in my brain that was lifted. And my first thought is I always struggled in school to stay focused. When that cloudiness went away and the tension went away, I was like, damn, I'm actually smart. I can think more clearly.
Uh,
And so to me, I was like, man, I'm smarter doing this thing. I'm gonna continue. So yeah, that was my beginning of going vegan. And I'm celebrating 10 years of going vegan in October of this year.
Awesome.
So like since that day.
Nice
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
when did you start fit vegan? Was that
Yeah,
after you made your obviously it's
almost
after you
4
made the
years ago.
transformation? Yeah.
Yeah, almost 4 years ago. It was at the beginning of COVID. Um, because yeah, I had been vegan for a while at that point, but maybe about 2, 3 years into me being vegan, I met my late partner who, within 3 months of us dating, she got diagnosed with breast cancer, and I basically became her full-time caregiver for almost the next, 4.5 years after that. But when she got sick, I was already whole
Oh,
food
so,
plant-based, and I was like, man, there's so many research on this. I'm like, you need to go
Yeah.
whole food plant-based. And she went whole food plant-based. She was already like pescatarian before. She transitioned, her inflammatory markers went down, like the tumor started to shrink. And to me, that was just like a big confirmation of this lifestyle.
mm,
And the doctors only gave her a year to live after her diagnosis. She ended up living 4.5 years with a pretty good quality of life for a cancer
nice.
patient before she ended up passing away just over 3 years ago. And so, like, to me, that was a confirmation of like, this is the way to go. And one
Yeah.
year before she passed, that was kind of like when COVID happened. I had a corporate job. It was my first corporate job ever. I felt all official because I was driving to an office, had my own desk. I come back on a
Mhm.
January, and I'm logged out of all my stuff. And I'm like, what's happening? I didn't log out of anything on my computer. And they're like, oh, the owners want to have a meeting with you. They bring me in the conference room. They're like, hey, we made basically bad financial decisions, and you're the last one hired. Everyone around's been there for like 3 years. You're the last person hired. You've been there for 8 months, so we have to let you go. I was like, well, my
Wow.
partner is going through cancer. I have a company. I didn't own a car. I have a company car that I'm using to drive her to cancer treatments because they would allow me to
Wow.
use it all
Yep.
the time. So I'm like, I'm losing a car and I'm losing my income. And I was spending like 5 to 10 grand a month on cancer treatments. I did not make that kind of money, so I was going
Wow.
in debt every month at a really high rate to continue to
Wow.
pay for
Yep.
treatments.
Yep.
And so, yeah, they basically
Wow.
drove me home, and I was like, I came back to my ex-partner, not my late partner, and I was like, I got laid off. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I was like, okay, well, I have my personal training certification. Let me just go and work at a gym because that's kind of the fastest way for me to make money. So I go to a gym, I
Mhm.
get 3 clients, I coach them. COVID happens, all gyms are shut down. So now I'm back at
Oh,
home and I'm like, dang it. I'm like, I would work 10
A lot of
jobs if I
rotten
need
luck.
to, right? I
Yeah.
was like, I need to provide. I need to find a way to make money. I would be willing to work 10 jobs and not sleep if I have to. But I was stuck at home. Everything was shut down. I was like, well, I'm going to sell fitness programs online. And so I started trying to sell some fitness program. I didn't have any idea how to do it, to be honest with you. And eventually found a mentor that showed me how to do it, which was an interesting story. He told me how much money it was to work with him, and I think it was installments of like $200 a month for a year. And I told him, I was like, hey, I'm like minus 70 grand in debt. All my credit cards are loaded. I just lost my job. I don't have money for rent. So I don't find money for rent by the end of this month. I'm going to lose my apartment and my partner's sick. And I remember I took a screenshot of my bank account and I sent it to him. And I said, I have $34.37 in my bank account. And I have it tattooed on my finger on me just to remind me where I came from.
Yeah.
I have $34.30. I was like, I will give you every single penny I have if you give me access to the information for me to make money online. And he was like, if you're
wow.
really in the situation that you're in, you're going to find a way to come up with the money. And then I sat there for maybe like a week and a half, and I was depressed. I was like, man, my partner's sick. I'm gonna lose my apartment. I don't have money for food. I was eating at food banks. I have a little like a little sheet on top of this one, a frame of my piece of paper when I went to the food bank. It's dated April 8th, 2020. And I was like, I have nothing. And eventually I was like, I have nothing. I called my credit card company, which fully loaded, right? Like I owed so much money on that card. I haven't made payments in
Yeah.
months. And I was like, hey guys, I need to buy something. Can you give me an extension? I was like, I have nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, of course. So they gave me a $200 extension on my credit card. And I was like, what? I hung up. I called back my mentor, he's been my mentor for 4 years now. I call them back and I'm like, take the money before they change their mind. Charge my card now before they realize what they've done. And basically, I made that investment. He gave me access to his portal, and I started working 16 hours a day for 30 days straight. And I basically turned that $200 investment into, I think my first month was 10,000, which is pretty much roughly how much I was making a year before. So I turned 10 grand a month, and I was like, whoa, this feels illegal. Am I going to go to jail for this? Because I've never made this much money in a month. And that's basically what got me to start Fit Vegan, is like I needed to make money to continue to pay for the treatments. And ultimately that year we did way better than I could have ever dreamed of. It was life changing for me to go online. I was able to provide her the level of care that she needed. I was able to pay off my debt. I was able to give her like a really good last year of her life before she ended up passing away. But yeah, that's how Fit Vegan
Wow.
started, out of having $34 in my bank account.
Wow. And you have it tattooed on your finger?
Yeah. Yeah, ultimately it was life changing. But that's why Fit Vegan started initially, was I couldn't get 10 jobs. I had to be online. And as I started and I transitioned, I was like, well, let me make this business about helping people not end up in her position. But that last year of my late partner's life, I was able to pay her higher quality of care, more treatments, obviously pay off some debt, pay off all the debt ultimately at this point, and just be able to give her a good quality of life. And so to me, that was life changing to go online. But that was the reason I just couldn't get 10 jobs, because COVID had shut down
Yeah,
everything. I couldn't work at a gym. And so I was like, I'm just going to go online. And as we started at first, I was like, okay, I need to make money to pay for treatments. But I was like, it's also about helping people not end up in her position, right? Because you think of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer. If you're moving your body, if you're eating whole food, plant-based, if you're at a healthy body weight, you're greatly reducing your risk of dealing with all these diseases, which ultimately is kind of what set the foundation for the mission for Fit Vegan, which is to help
yeah.
10,000 people get lean, thrive, and disease-proof their body on plants by 2033 and 1 million by 2050. And we're nearing 800 transformations so
I was
far
just
the
going to ask you
past
the
few
number.
years.
Wow, that's impressive.
That's fantastic.
How,
Absolutely
how many
fantastic.
how many sign up per month then on average?
Uh, I think we basically do like 200, 250 people a year, roughly.
Hmm.
Yeah. But right now this year it's being exponential because we're scaling, we're bringing in different coaches and different strategies, but the goal is to amp it up to like 500, 600 transformations a year, of people that we get to impact, because 10,000 by 2033 is a big goal. And so I need for the growth to be a bit more exponential so I can
Yeah,
reach that target.
that's good though. It's something to reach for. I'm
Yeah.
certain you'll do it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
No,
don't doubt it either. There's be a lot of, headache to grow and
Yeah,
scale a business, part of the game.
yeah.
it
So I
is.
wanted to
It,
ask you more about your fiance, because I heard you say in another podcast that it wasn't a genetic cancer. So you had it diagnosed somehow.
Yeah,
Or how did you rule that out?
yeah. So there's a test you can do to see if it's a genetic mutation,
Okay.
which ultimately, after she did it, she also kind of got her sisters to do it. And so it wasn't a genetic thing, it was purely lifestyle created.
Hmm.
So it was like she was an entrepreneur. She owned an event company. So when a new restaurant would come into town and would launch it, she would basically be the one to kind of launch the restaurant. And I did some events with her, and this is stressful. I think
brutal.
Yeah,
Brutal.
I think my business is stressful. That was stressful. And so
yeah,
she was like moving around, eating protein bar, like living off energy bars, energy drinks, not sleeping, working all the time for years to build
yeah,
her business.
yeah.
And yeah, ultimately it just got the best of her. And it's always something I keep in the back of my mind as I'm building this. It's like I want to make sure I don't give myself cancer out of helping people not get cancer. So it's
Exactly.
kind of
Yeah,
like this, foot on the brake
Let's
and the
take.
gas.
yeah,
I always think
definitely.
about it like that when you're flying in an airplane and they say put on your oxygen mask first before you try to help somebody else. It's kind of the same thing. You have to take care of yourself first. You have to be in tip-top shape so you can help other people.
That's
Yeah, and
true.
that's such
Yeah.
a hard lesson to learn. Like I use the water, like filling your cup with water. Um,
Yeah.
to me, like I really people always told me that, put your oxygen mask on, make sure your cup is full, all those analogies, but I never understood it until
Mhm.
after she passed away. And all the stress and pressure of 4.5 years of caregiving, financial struggles, and trauma, to be honest with you, from like waking up in the middle of the night to screams, having to rush to the hospital and all these things. When she passed away, like my cup was not only empty, it was dry and it just cracked. Like I
Yeah.
didn't even have a cup to pour into. And it took me a solid 2 years to like rebuild the cup so that I would have something to pour into.
Oh,
And
I'm
now like
sure.
I
Yeah.
get it on such a deep level. But at first I thought it was like, go get a massage, go meditate. It was actually more about like spending weeks doing nothing and just being with myself and relaxing and not stressing myself with social media or work or workouts or anything.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask about your mom. I know Suzanne has questions too, but I understand your mom got fit and you helped her transition. I like to tell people I helped my mom as well because I helped her reverse her type 2 diabetes.
Oh,
Was
beautiful.
it tougher to go to plant-based? Because my mom, she was totally on board when I asked her about it.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. My mom's just a complete machine. She does what she's told. So she was actually really easy to coach. Um,
Awesome.
and and because I was her son, there was a mixture of not wanting to disappoint me and wanting to lead by example, but her really wanting to lose the weight because I saw her struggle throughout the years. Like she'd do like the maker's diet. I remember she had her containers with like 10 almonds in it, and she had
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bags of food, and she tried a bunch of weird stuff. And I remember because she was on the heavier side when I was younger, when I was a teenager, my goal was to be as heavy as my mom. She was 185 pounds. So I was like trying to get as heavy as mom, but now she's like 133 pounds. So
What's her height? Do you
Nice.
know?
she's 5'9".
What's that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Oh,
when I
she's really, really thin. Yeah.
yeah, we're all athletic in our family. Like I'm 6'4", 185 pounds. My dad is 6'8", like 240. We're all tall, lean,
Yeah.
athletic people. But yeah, transfer my mom was awesome. She just came in. I was like, I'm gonna help you lose the weight once and for all. The only thing I ask is you have to do it vegan because I'm not gonna include any animal products
I
into your
did the
plan.
same. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'll solve all your problems, but you have to do it this way. And she crushed it. She lost over 50 pounds. She's kept it off for 4 years now. And it's also a form of influence on my dad because he's very much a meat eater. So I'm working on him. I think I'll
Oh,
get
I
him. I
have the
think I need
same
another
issues.
2 years.
And he has inflammation issues. He has different diseases that I think would really help him if he went plant-based, but it's tough to reach everybody, unfortunately.
Yeah. So just, I'm obviously his son, so he has a hard time with it of listening to me. But I'm like, hey, dad, like I've done this almost 800 times. I have some of the top plant-based doctors backing me. I'm like, I'm not just your son anymore. I'm actually good at what I do. You should somewhat consider the advice, but I think I need another 2 years before I get to him.
Hopefully you get there. I'm sure
Yes.
you will.
Yeah.
And Suzanne, I think you probably have some questions.
I do. I know that you're working with Dr. Lori Marbus now. How did that all get started?
Yeah, so I actually had we had a friend in common, Robert Cheek, that made an introduction for us to be on each other's podcasts. And so I jumped on her podcast and we really connected, and then she jumped on my show as well. And after I think a week or so, she's like, "Hey, actually, like I'd love to improve my body composition." So she actually hired me to coach her
Nice.
for 9 months to improve her body composition, and she did really well. She was able to lose weight. She lost like 7% body fat. She was able to improve her running time because she loved running. And as I was coaching her, I was like, hey, like I feel like we should partner on this because you're a plant-based doctor, you can do the lab work, you can do the consultation, we can adjust the nutrition based off of the blood work. And so that's kind of when we had dinner one day with my wife and her husband, and then we're just like, I feel like this would be a good partnership. So yeah, we partnered, I think like almost a year ago now.
Yeah, I was going
Nice
to
job.
actually ask you about that at the end because I wouldn't mind doing something like that myself. I just want to get six packs, which I've never had. I lost
Yeah.
150 pounds. I did a tummy tuck because the skin wasn't going away, but I still want to take it further.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
I made so many videos about having a six pack. it's it's great to experience it at least once. But once
Exactly.
you
I'd love
have
to.
it,
Yeah.
right, you have photos, you're like, I remember when I had a six pack, but I don't like to live there all the time. Just because you have to be so tight on your nutrition to be able to maintain that low level of body fat all
Mhm.
year round, that it's hard to enjoy yourself. So to me, like a four pack is kind of what I'll stay at,
Yeah.
because that's like I can travel, I can eat good food, still exercise, but I
Yeah.
don't
For me,
need to
just a
be
little
so
more
like,
definition. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, Richard, let's get you a six pack. Make that
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. Definitely.
Awesome.
So how did you meet Robert Shee? Because he's a good friend of mine as well.
Yeah. Where did I first meet Robert? Actually, I first met Robert when I wasn't, not to say that I am someone in the vegan space, but when I didn't really have a name or a brand in the vegan space, at a LA Expo, oh man, like 9 years ago. I was a little hippie hitchhiking around the States. I ended up in Los Angeles. And I went there and I saw Robert and I took a photo with him. I still have that photo from that long ago.
Yeah.
But I think we got reconnected through maybe Nimai. Yeah, I think through Nimai Delgado, I think we got
Yeah.
reconnected. And then Robert's an awesome guy, very easy to
He
get
is.
along.
Yeah.
So we just bonded. We've done some work together. We see each other at expos all the time. So yeah, Robert and I are good friends now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
That is great.
Can you walk us through the process of what your clients would have to go through when they first sign up, and how long the process typically takes to start seeing results?
Yeah, for sure. So, well, first step is they book a call, because we filter who comes into the program,
Okay.
because for multiple reasons. We have such a great community that I don't want to bring a bad apple in the community, right? So I'm very protective, because I have to work in that community and I want to have a good space. I want to work with cool people. So we're
Mhm.
protective of that. We also want to make sure people are in the right headspace, because if someone comes in and like, hey, I need to drop 40 pounds in the next month, I'll be like, that's not going to happen, right? Like we need people to be in a certain headspace to want to make a lasting transformation. And the people that are just looking for a quick fix, I can tell them that we're not going to do that and I actually want to go to sustainable road to like lose the weight and like keep it off. And there's a whole process to it, which I'll share with you. But some people are like, no, I want a quick fix. I'm like, great. I'm sure there's other coaches that will take your money and do it for you. But it's just not for me. Right. So we
Yeah.
turn people around. We have no issues with that. And make sure people are respectful, because you'd be surprised how many people can be
Yeah.
disrespectful on some of those calls. But ultimately, once they come in, they have a few forms to fill out, consultations. From those forms, a conversation with our nutritionist and their trainer, they're going to have their personal workout created. They're going to have their meal plan created. So it's a fully custom meal plan. It comes with a custom grocery list. It comes with their own recipe sheet that's specific to them and how much food they need to eat, and macro and micronutrient balance. They have the ability to do blood work in a consultation with Dr. Lori as well if they have any health concerns or anything like that. And then from there, we basically do an onboarding call with them, and then we set them up to get started. We change people's program every 4 weeks. Reason being is because your body adjusts to the stressor that you're asking of it, right? 4 to 6 weeks is kind of the ratio. We just do it every 4 weeks for two reasons. One, it's more entertaining to change the workout often. So it kind of keeps people motivated to do something new. And
Right.
then second, it just kind of cuts the plateau short. Like before you go into a plateau, we're already changing the workout. And we customize it to people's environment. So if they want to exercise at home with resistance band, we'll do that. If they want to go to a gym, we'll do that. Like wherever they want to train, we'll build a workout for that. We don't want equipment to be an obstacle to people losing weight. Like my mom lost 50 pounds with bands and home workouts,
Yep.
right? Now she works out at a gym, but at first she just started with bands because that's what she had access to. And then in terms of the meal plan, like I said, it's tailored to them. So if they have any like health concerns, medical conditions, they're on specific medication, whatever it may be, we'll tweak it. Our nutritionist will tweak the nutrition according to that. In terms of duration, our rule is about 20 pounds per 4 month range. Right. So I know a lot of people will do like a 60-day or like a 90-day thing, but here's the truth. I can get you to drop 20 pounds in 60 days. I can get you to drop 20 pounds in a month. I can just starve you and make you do 3 hours of cardio every day and you'll lose the weight. But will you continue to do that to keep the weight after? And is it healthy? It's not.
Right.
If we can do it in 90 days, but if we're going to do it in 90 days, like you need to be perfect with your nutrition and training the whole way through. And I want to be realistic that it's not going to happen. Like 4 months is a long time for life to kick you in the butt quite a few times. You're going to have stressful days at work, emergencies with your kids. There's going to be some family stuff. There's going to be vacation. There's going to be travel. So
Yeah,
we
exactly.
account for our members not being perfect because that's more realistic. Because if biggest thing I saw when it comes to transforming people, like the number one mistake that people make is mismanagement of expectation. If you expect for it to go perfect for 90 days and it doesn't, people fall off and they stay off. So I'm like, hey,
Oh, it's not-
you're going to mess up. It's going to go off track. It's fine. All I need you to do is just get back on track. A
Yep.
big saying we have is win the next meal, win the next workout. You missed a workout? Cool. Win the next one. You ate 5,000 calories of pizza on Friday night. Hope you had a good time. Eat your breakfast on Saturday, right? Like there's no compensation. We don't play that game with people. Just get back on track.
Yeah.
Because if not, you start to develop like an unhealthy relationship with food and exercise, and it becomes a means of compensation. And there's never any success story that comes out of that, right? I want you to have a healthy relationship with food and exercise. So we take 4 months to account for life kicking you in the butt a few times, right? And so if you want to lose 20 pounds, 4 months, 40 pounds, 8 months, 60 pounds a year. Like we follow that rule for everyone, right?
Mhm.
And if we get there earlier, great. We can move on to the next stage earlier. But we just want to be realistic. The second phase, basically, first phase of our program is body recomposition. Phase 2 is reverse dieting. You guys ever heard of reverse dieting before?
I have,
No,
Okay.
I
So
haven't.
it's basically the process where we help people speed up their metabolism post transformation. So the analogy that I like to use for that is like a fire. So when you go through a fat loss, you're basically decreasing the amount of calories slowly. You're increasing your energy output. So your metabolism slows down to adjust to the fact that you're doing more on less food, right? Your body goes from being like a Hummer to being a Prius, super fuel efficient, which that's why it makes it harder the more weight you lose and the deeper you go into a deficit. But the thing is, after people are done losing the weight, they just go like, party, I'm done this. Let me just go back to eating the foods that I enjoy. Let me just go back to living my life and keep some healthy habits. But the thing is, that's equivalent to having a small flame. Like if you're going camping and you're starting a fire and throwing a big log of wood on it.
Yep.
The small flame can't handle the big log, right? So how do you make a small flame bigger where it can handle the big log? You throw small branches on it over time, and that flame is going to grow. So we do the exact same thing with your body. Instead of throwing pieces of wood, because that would hurt, we add food every day. So like just say, Richard, you end your fat loss phase at 2,400 calories, and we start the reverse dieting process, will be great. We'll bump you up to 2,450 or 2,500 per day for a week,
Mhm.
right? And because it's such a small increase, your body doesn't go, yay, let me store it for the future. It goes like, nah, I've been in a deficit for a long time. Let me process that and utilize it as energy, which is why when we do reverse dieting, we use carbohydrates,
yeah.
right? Because fat takes longer
Yeah.
to digest, more likely to be stored because your body's like a sponge at the end of a fat loss phase. So let's just say I give you an extra banana per day, Richard, during your first week. That extra banana is going to be digested and used because you're still being active throughout the day. Your body needs energy. But the thing
Yep.
is, it has to process it before it uses it. And so what happens is that next week, your weight might still be the same, right? So we're throwing that branch, we're slowly increasing the body's ability to handle food. So we do that over the course of 4 months, right? It's not sexy, but it takes time, but it's worth it because you actually get to keep the weight off after. You can go longer than 4 months, but that's not very exciting for a lot of people. So 4 months is kind of the fastest we can go. Anything faster than 4 months, you see a higher gain of fat back on the body. Because realistically, what you're doing is you're trying to trick the body into being able to handle more food. It's trickery to a certain extent. So if I throw an extra 1,000 calories a day, you're not tricking the body. It's like there's 1,000 calories there. I know that I can store some of it and I can use some of it. So we really have to go slowly with it.
Yeah.
Once we do that process, on average, we can add 800 to 1,000 calories additional on top of what people were eating to maintain the weight that they lost. Right. So if they lost 20 pounds, a lot of the time they'll be 20 pounds lighter. There's three scenarios, I'll be honest. One scenario, 80% of the time, people stay the same weight. The other 10% of the time, people will lose weight, which is rare. That's why it's only 10% of the time. And the other 10% of the time is worst case scenario, people put on a pound or two back. But I think that's a good trade-off for us having increased your food by like 800 to 1,000 calories.
This is a
So
pretty good.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
it makes a significant difference on hunger levels. Again, it's not only about like being able to eat more food. But when there's more food coming in, it's more vitamins and minerals. That's the part that people are missing, right? They're always staying in a deficit. That's not a lot of vitamins and minerals coming in compared if you're able to process an additional 1,000 calories. So that's basically phase 2 of the program. It's like, let's lose the weight and keep it off. We tell people, if you're just going to come and do the fat loss with us, don't bother joining the program, because you're pretty much going to put the weight back on if you don't do phase 2. Right? We
True.
turn people around genuinely,
Right.
because of that. And because was it like 95% of people put the weight back on within 6 months to a year in North
Yeah, I've heard
America
that.
after
Yeah.
they lost it?
Yeah.
Like, you did all this work to lose the weight and like be in a calorie deficit and work out hard, and then bam, a year later it's back. Like, it's not worth it. Like,
I
just
couldn't
do this little
imagine
4
regaining.
months,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you wanted to lose it because it was, I'm going to use the word lightly, inconvenient for you to have that excess weight on your body,
Right.
right? So
Mhm.
might as well do it right.
Yep.
And, I want to be upfront with the people listening as well. Like, it's not a guarantee that the weight won't come back on after. It's you're basically making it easy for you to not have the weight come back on. Because let's just say you have to consume, Richard, 3,500 calories to maintain the weight off. Technically, if you wanted to put fat on, you would have to eat 3,500 calories, like more than 3,500 calories, which is challenging if you're eating whole food plant-based, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
because I've had people come back to me and be like, well, I put some weight back on after I did reverse dieting. I'm like, great. What did you do? It's like, well, I went back to eating donuts and pizzas and like not working out. Well, I'm like, well, I'm not a magician, right? So
Right.
we need to keep some type of activity and healthy food in. So if you go eat donuts and pizza after and cookies and you stop working out, you will put the weight back on. I'm
Yeah.
just trying
I'm
to
not
end you
gonna.
in a position where it doesn't come back. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna allow myself
Is there
those
a
cheat days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what were you
is
saying,
there a
Suzanne?
phase 3? Is
Yeah.
there a phase 3?
There's a phase 3. So phase 3 is a fun phase. It's not mandatory for people. It's just if they want to. But a lot of the times, like, our crowd of people that we work with are between 45 and 80 years old. 60% women, 40% men, right? And it's usually people that have struggled with their weight for a very long time. And once they become that light and they feel fitter and they feel stronger, they're like, I want to run a 5K, a half marathon, a marathon. I want to do a triathlon. You can see by the medals behind me if you're watching on YouTube. I've done, over 25 of them. So a lot of people are like, well, I want to try a triathlon. Like, awesome. So phase 3 is an endurance phase where we pay for our members' races, we train them for it, and we give them some
Wow,
cool gear
nice.
to race in.
I wish I knew about your program a few years ago when I was doing half marathons.
Nice. Yeah, they're tough. I stopped competing in them. It was too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Now, how do you deal with
Yeah,
injuries? Because
I
I
can only
had
do
a
half marathons.
yeah. Maxime, how do you deal with like knee injuries and as people want to build muscle and because I suffered a knee injury for a few years with chronic swelling and it's under control now and as I get back into exercise, but do you see where their weaknesses are and give them specific exercise to do to help deal with some of these issues that they might have?
Yeah, of course. Like, I'll be honest with you, and I use this word respectfully because I'm banged up as well, but most people are banged up somewhere, right? Everyone's got a
Yeah.
shoulder, a hip, a knee, a back,
Yeah,
or
it's always
something.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're used to dealing with that. A lot of the time, it's like looking if there's any mobility issue in that area, and then strengthening the muscles that are around it in a way
Right.
that doesn't hurt the joint, right? And ultimately, just working your way up, right? So you're familiar with progressive overload for
Yeah.
resistance training. It's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing with kind of some of the injuries. So it's like just work up the load that your body's able to handle, build those little muscles around it, work on the mobility, and then just kind of slowly go up from there,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, like, a lot of these things are solvable, or at least being able to greatly reduce the amount of pain. So yeah, we work with people with like that had hip surgery, knee replacement surgery, fused spine, banged up shoulder. Like, yeah, it's part of being a coach. We're used
Right.
to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's my job. That's what I do all day is, put people back together. They've done stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all the questions I had.
Yeah, so I just want to say it's very nice to meet you. I'm so glad that you're doing so well and that things are going well. It sounds like you're doing a fantastic job, and I'm sure everybody's so grateful to finally see their 6-pack abs, even if it's only for a short while until they go back to the 4-pack, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
nice.
a good milestone to reach once in a lifetime.
It
Definitely,
is. It is
definitely.
wonderful.
Yeah, but, thank you very much for joining us. And if anybody wants to find you, they can find you at fitvegan.com. Is that correct?
Fitvegancoaching.com.
Oh, yeah,
Fitvegan.com wanted too much money for me to buy it, and I was like,
I hear
I'm
you.
just
We
gonna
had the
get
same issue with our
fitvegancoaching.com.
domain. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And they can find you on Facebook and Instagram and all that, I'm sure.
Yeah, so if you go to fitvegancoaching.com, you scroll all the way at the bottom, there's a link to my Instagram page, to my YouTube channel, to my podcast, and to our Facebook group.
Awesome. Yeah, we wish you
Beautiful.
all the best.
Well, thank you for
Yes.
having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.